Hi Capricorn, welcome to your July 2018 love reading. It's Rena here, and I'm shuffling the cards, but I'm also going to put them in little piles. That has been a little discovery of mine, at least this month. I'm going to do it that way. And I'm also doing a slight variation on my typical spread. So just to kind of change things up, I do have Taurus rising, so a lot of times I will stick to one way of doing things for quite a while, and then I feel like the need to change. Hopefully this isn't too dim because I don't have any lights on. I'm just relying on the evening light. I prefer to film in the daylight, but you know, I can't always do that. So anyway, let's see, 4, I've got at least 7. So let's start these proceedings. Oh God, I keep getting this card in different positions, but over and over again, the 4 of Swords. So it sounds to me like, oh yeah, I've been hearing about that because Mars is retrograde in July, and I think there's a Mercury retrograde as well. So it may be a time for a lot of people to just chill and not be too active. So maybe that's why I keep getting that card over and over again. We have eclipses. We have solar eclipse in Cancer, your opposite sign, and we have a lunar eclipse in Aquarius. But also we're coming into the month from a full moon in your sign in June, in late June. So you may be still dealing with the after effects of that. Let me just say something before I pick the other cards about that, because that is a relationship-oriented transit. And so at the time of the full moon, the full moon will be in your first house, and there's an opposition to the sun, as there is with all full moons or lunar eclipses. And this is a full moon, not a lunar eclipse. So that's going to be your 7th house, where the sun is, and that is in Cancer, of course, the opposite sign. And so that can indicate in general that you are dropping something about yourself, that maybe you're ending a certain way of being. It also can bring awareness to your needs. Maybe you see how you need to stop doing something in order to honor your partner. Or maybe there's just this kind of push-pull where each person is trying to get their needs met, and it's like maybe this is a time of awareness of what your needs are if you've been too busy thinking about the other person. What's nice is with the solar eclipse is that that is a time of new beginnings in that 7th house. So that may bode well for a marriage or a committed partnership. I hope I said that that's what the 7th house means. Maybe you're wondering what's the significance of the 7th house. Okay. And I will talk about the positions, and then when I pick the bottom card, then I put it to the side. This looks like a similar scenario to another reading. Maybe it was Virgo, because I got this card for Virgo too. And the outcome. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. So the theme of the month of July for you, Capricorn, is the Four of Swords. This is a card of rest, rejuvenation, reflection. So obviously, with those three Re's, it's not a time of necessarily overt activity. There may be some physical restoration that's necessary. And this is not a general reading, so I don't talk about other areas of life. I tend to just focus on that. Of course, if something connects to it, I will. And there may be this period, because I'm going to talk about the past position. I think this may inform the reading. And this is the Justice card. So the obvious thing that I'm going with is that for some of you, you are coming off of a divorce or a legal separation. And so that makes you in that solitary position. But it's not solitary like, oh, woe is me, I'm in this lonely place. The Four of Swords is really about meditation in a lot of ways. It doesn't even have to be like the spiritual thing. It can be just like trying to rest the body and mind. And usually what I think of when I see that card is that the person is coming from a place where they have experienced a lot of stress. And so they need this interim or this downtime before they begin a new cycle of life. They need kind of like this period of no thought, no action in order to restore themselves. And this could be also physically too. And there may be more to that story. There may be like other issues that have contributed to this need for this period of time. Now, obviously, for all people, you're not going to be going to some kind of a retreat in that sense. It may just be that you are not going out and socializing as much as you normally do. But again, I want to stress the aspect of this that is not about anything being negative, but simply that you are taking care, like this could be like self-care for yourself. And yes, for some people, they may have gone through an ordeal that has left them feeling a bit like their energy has been sapped. And this could be because of the other party. The Justice card also connects to the sign of Libra. So if that means anything to you, and with Capricorn, that is the air sign that tends to be who you associate with the most or attract the most because you're both cardinal signs. And so the spiritual lesson that you're working with right now is represented by the Three of Wands. And this is a card of, you know, you can see the mountains in the background. This is a card of expansion. Fire is expansive in and of itself, but the number 3 is a number of creativity and abundance and expansion. And it's really about, with the mountains depicting this card, it's really about setting your sight on a wider pasture, a higher mountain to climb. This is right up Capricorn's alley, believe it or not, because you are the sign of the mountain goat and you are always aspiring to something greater, a greater version of yourself. Now, with fire energy, it's usually like maybe creativity, self-expansion, you know, trying to self-improvement. It's going to be, but it can be entrepreneurial or something like that. As a spiritual message, it's asking you if you hold the belief in relationships that they are here for our soul's expansion. And the reason I say this is because your Venus sign may also be in Capricorn. You may have Venus in Capricorn as well as the Sun in Capricorn. Venus is never far from the Sun. So a lot of times people can have their Sun and their Venus in the same sign. I don't know if I should say a lot of times, but it certainly wouldn't be beyond the pale. Let's put it that way. And the point that I'm trying to make about all of this is that Venus can determine our attitude towards romantic relationships. And I would say that even if your Venus isn't in Capricorn, you may still retain some of that attitude that we would associate with Venus in Capricorn, and that may color your expectations of relationships. And basically, it's all about how you view your partner. If you view them as a stepping stone for you to have a better standard of living, a better place in the world or a status, or can you understand that relationships are supposed to be about love? Now, I guess that's just my opinion, right? Because maybe if two people agree on something about what their relationship stands for, maybe that's good for them and that's okay for them. But I'm saying that we have different compartments in life, and love is a compartment that I believe has its own standards and its own purpose, its own goals. And it's like really to accept somebody for themselves as they are, and to be accepted for who you are as much as possible, to reflect the greatness in somebody else. So we hold that for each person, and this can be very healing. It can't be everything. You can't rely on another person, obviously, to fill all of your insecurities, the gaps inside of you, but they can reflect back to you the beautiful things about you. And what happens sometimes is that when we come into relationships for ulterior motives, or with ulterior motives, and maybe they're not like, this great plotting or anything like that. It may just be because, a person sees the world in a certain way. It changes the nature of the relationship. And then here's the kicker, and this is the problem and the paradox, is that the other person will likewise have an agenda. So if you believe that relationships are here to enhance your status or position, the other person is you're going to attract, more likely than not, someone who thinks that you're here to enhance their position. And it could be like if you are beautiful, or if you are somebody who is very successful as well, that you enhance each other in that way. But there's not that sense of the actual qualities. It's all, the surface things of the success, or the physical appearance, or the youth, or the job title, whatever it is. So that's why it's important to value love for its own sake, and understand that it can provide you with something far greater than a stepping stone. It can actually help you to honor yourself. And if you're in something that's very conditional, both people can end up feeling debased, can end up feeling demeaned, because if they don't live up to that thing, if somebody loses their job or somebody gets older, whatever, they're not going to be looked at, valued in the same way. And that's when it gets a little bit sad. And I think that this is about wanting something more and working with that quality of your soul's expansion and what that entails, and a spiritual relationship, even though that's fire and that's more about creativity. So the practical steps that you can take to kind of achieve the love that you're looking for in life. This is the Eight of Cups. This is leaving that which no longer serves you in a direction of maybe like something more meaningful. Cups are about water, energy, emotions, but also about the spirit. So just what I was talking about. And so for some people, this involves leaving maybe a marriage, a long-term relationship that you've invested time in. You may have a lot of memories. Maybe you have children, and it's not an easy thing. This is not going to apply to everyone who watches this, obviously. This is for the people that it's meant to be for. And you know who you are because you resonate with some of those other cards. But you know, I always say about this Eight of Cups is that in order to leave something behind, you have to have somewhere that you're going towards. Leaving without having a destination, and I'm talking about even the intent of, you know, what you're trying to find, but just leaving a situation is really more like escape. If you don't have a vision in your mind, you haven't set an intention for where you're going, there's no direction, then you're just reacting to your life. You're not really taking action, inspired action. I doubt very seriously there are a lot of Capricorns out there who react to life. I think that you are very methodical in the things that you do. You tend to be very conscious about that. But I would say to you is make sure that you have the highest intentions and goals for what you're seeking. So in other words, we all hear about people and they leave their spouse for someone younger and sexier. Is that like a inspired goal, or is that the ego telling the person that they can do better, and they're throwing away something that may be very good for something, you know, trading in a model for something else, an older model for a newer model. And the thing about that is, it doesn't mean that in all cases, if somebody leaves their spouse for somebody younger, that it's because they're in their ego. It can be that they really feel more of an alignment with that person. So it's a case-by-case basis for sure. But remember that you're coming off of that full moon. So this may be something that's actually talking about the after effects of a full moon in your sign and how that jibes with your own, where you're at in life in general. And maybe some of you are on like a spiritual path already and you're seeing relationships in a totally different way. Pluto has been Capricorn for 10 years. That has to, you know, leave its mark. It really does. And now Saturn, your own ruler, is in its own sign. So that, likewise, it kind of like, some people may feel like it's putting pressure on them to get their life in order, which is kind of funny because we don't think of Capricorn's life of being not orderly. We think of them as having a lot of order in their life. But the thing is that maybe in one area of your life everything is going smoothly, and yet in another there still is some kind of stuff going on. What is the roadblock for you at this time? The Temperance card. Some people may be struggling with addiction. Actually, the Eight of Cups could be about looking at any kind of drinking problems, especially, obviously, with cups. We're talking about drinking, but any kind of addictive tendencies. And then we have the Temperance card right below it. So I say this a lot, too, is that when you're trying to change your life, if you're in a transition and you have things that you want to change about yourself, the first couple of things are the basics, which are if you have addictions and if you have even physical, you know, because addiction affects you physically, any kind of physical problems, because your health, you know, that can make everything else. That's like kind of the foundation. And if you have an addiction and you're trying to find yourself in other ways, that is certainly going to challenge that. Also with the Temperance card, moderation, is that, now again, that's not something that I associate being a problem with Capricorns. You know, you tend to be very moderate, very measured in your actions and not be extreme. But again, mileage may vary. There may be Capricorns with a wild streak. You may have like some planets in Aquarius or even Pisces, where it's not as, or Sagittarius even, where you're a little bit rebellious here and there. And you may be able to hide it in certain aspects of your life, but then it comes out in other respects. So I would say in terms of love, not to place too much emphasis on certain aspects of your relationship. Maybe you focus too much on certain things, and we're not, maybe you're too exacting with your partner, too critical, too demanding, and the other person felt too pressured, and that created friction. Maybe you need to ease up and tend to your own garden and accept your partner as they are. And the interesting thing about this is that, and if you have maybe you don't have a problem with addiction, but you pick people who do. So get a handle on that. Why do you have a tendency to do that if that's true for you? Because you can usually trace it back to childhood. And that was kind of a imprint on you of how people are, and not realizing that not all people drink or don't drink to excess, don't drink habitually. So there's all kinds of things that could be going on. That's why I like to do tarot readings on YouTube, because it's very open-ended. It's not as, you know, exacting as a natal chart, which is specifically designed for one person. So yeah, you know, any issue. Also, the Temperance card is connected to Sagittarius. So if perhaps this relationship was with a Sagittarius, you may have to just realize that you had basic incompatibility, even if there were certain things that you really found appealing. What is coming in is represented by the Two of Cups. This could be reuniting with a former partner. And as I said, you had that Eight of Cups. This could actually be a water sign person. In general, water sign people will be very much on the same page with an earth sign. So Cancer, your opposite sign, Scorpio, or Pisces. And the other thing that the Two of Cups can represent is forgiveness. If you have felt that you wasted your life with somebody, please do not think like that. There is no such thing. No such thing. You chose to be with this person for a reason. There are no mistakes. I don't believe that for a minute. And there are no wasted moments in our life. We are here to explore and experience, in my opinion. If you hear something, that sounds like a bird, maybe a blue jay, I'm not sure. The outcome is the Hierophant, and this card is connected to Taurus, but it's also the card of seeking a spiritual guidance and a spiritual framework in your life. I do connect all of these cards, you know, going on down here with spirituality. Sagittarius, the Temperance card, it rules the 9th house, which is the God house. The Eight of Cups I associate with Scorpio. in particular of all the water signs. And that's about the secrets of existence and metaphysics. And the Hierophant is, you know, more of the structures in our society that relate to morality and ethics and things like that, but also organized religion would fall in this, and marriage. And so maybe there's somebody from your past that comes back into your life. You know, we do have a Mercury retrograde, and that tends to bring people from the past back. So watch for that. I think it starts on July 25th, if I'm not mistaken, around that time. And we'll see what happens. And maybe there is somebody out there that you passed over the first time, or the timing wasn't right. And now it is. And I did get, I told you I got this for Virgo, I believe. So maybe I'm getting this again because of that Mercury retrograde. So people coming from the past coming back in. So anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this, Capricorn. If you'd like a private reading, please click on the link below this video. My website is ReinaMoonAstrology.com. Take care. Bye.